yeah, you know what? I'm good. I know I'm good enough. I'm getting paid. I'm set. I'm all right. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but everybody knows I'm good enough. I can figure this out.
Kind of odd, right? That you have
Yeah.
the offensive line coach of a professional football team talking to the media. I thought originally that it was like, hey, okay, I'm D'Amico Ryans. I'm the head coach of the team. I'm a defensive-minded head coach, and all I get asked about is how bad my offensive line is. Here you go, offensive line coach. You go deal with them. Throw them out to the wolves. Now, I was told that Strausser was requested by some media members and that they eventually, not right away, they eventually allowed the media to have a little sit down with Strausser. Now, you might have noticed he wasn't on camera. That was by design for whatever reason. Not exactly sure why he wasn't on camera, but we do have some recording of it. A lot of this from Big Sarge Media, so credit to Big Sarge for posting this on his YouTube channel. Post some really good stuff on there if you're a Texans fan, good content from Big Sarge. So here's the first thing that caught my ear, not my eye because he wasn't on video. It caught my ear. Strausser talked, because look, the Texans have had trouble with stunts, right? So he was asked, obviously, about the stunts. Here was Strausser on the Texans' troubles with stunts.
Stunts are always a challenge. I mean, there's a reason that defenses do stunt on third down because there's some challenges with it. So to me, it all goes back to starting with just like being really good at one-on-one pass protection, because you get that done, and then the next step, the next phase is to be able to handle a stunt. And a lot of what goes into handling a stunt is the same stuff that goes into being a really good one-on-one protector. So, there's a lot of little things that we know that as we've really studied, we had that extra 3 days to really kind of go back and look at some stuff and really see some stuff that consistently has shown up as issues and stuff. Again, like I said, that I need to go back and do a better job as a coach to get these guys locked into better and find a way to drill it better and make sure when we show up on Sunday that everybody's got complete confidence in what we're doing.
Thoughts?
It's interesting to me because I'm with you. I saw Will Kunkel start putting out there that he got Strausser for a one-on-one, and I thought, wow, that's crazy. And then when I realized that D'Amico put him out there with the media, it's
to
like,
be fair, I don't think it was D'Amico. I think it was the media request, and I think the NFL rule is that if your coach gets requested, I think they're required to.
okay. But at the same time, in my head, I'm thinking, well, are they just going to throw him to the wolves and let him fend for himself? Or, what's the deal? But when you hear this, I think it kind of lends itself to me to the fact that they still believe he knows what to do. He's intelligent as a coach. The problem is that there's a disconnect somewhere. And even if he explains what he just explained in that soundbite, to me is, so then where's the disconnect? Are the guys just not getting it? You say you got to drill them a different way so that they can get better at it? Because it's not just the stunts, it's the twists. The twists have been really screwing with them. The fact that they look like they're unprepared, they stick with the twist too long. There's a gaping hole in the middle of the line for the other guy coming from the linebacker position or from the outside in, and they are just wreaking havoc all over the place when it happens. And it looks like they are inexperienced at doing what he is kind of simplifying for us to say is a quote-unquote easy fix. So I don't think that it put my mind at ease in any way, shape, or form hearing from him. It's just that hopefully he's right, that he knows what to do to try and rectify what's been going on. But why hasn't it been rectified yet?
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That last sentence you just said, Blankers.
Yep.
Like, he talks about having the extra 3 days. Bro, what? Like, it's been 2.5 months. These are issues you've had since week 1, not just this past week. So he's like, oh, we've had the extra 3 days. You've had 10 weeks. You've had 10 weeks to try to rectify this and to figure this out. So we had an extra 3 days. That's going to magically solve it when it's been an issue all year long. You've played 9 games, but now you're pointing to the extra 3 days that you have on this mini bye, that it's going to be the cure-all? Are you kidding me? And he says a lot of the same stuff as being good at man-to-man is what makes you good in stunts. I'm not seeing that. Like, I think Laramie Tunsil's a very good man-on-man blocker. But you throw a little stunt, and most of it's on the interior. It doesn't really, mess with Laramie. But like, Kenyon Green, is he telling me that Kenyon Green's not a good man-to-man blocker? Because he's saying it's a lot of the same stuff that you see on stunts. Well, he's struggling there. So is Juice. So is Shaq Mason. So is he telling me those guys aren't good man-on-man? Maybe he is. Maybe he is saying that. Here's another one from Strausser talking about how he has belief in his guys, which he has to say.
Yeah, everybody in the unit for sure has the ability to play. Like they wouldn't be here if we didn't think they could play. And so yes, everybody in the unit for sure has the ability to do it. There's always going to be some challenges on third down stuff. I think across the league in terms of recognizing some of the stuff that's going to come. But I think that's an area that I know that's an area that we can take some strides and improve on. And so we can, like I said, a lot of that goes back to just what we do during the weekend practice and how we get them, a little bit better prepared for what we're anticipating seeing. And there's always going to be something that shows up game day that we didn't anticipate seeing.
Right.
Forgive my chuckle, Jeremy, but the whole time once he said that and said, of course we believe in them or they wouldn't be here, and I'm going, have you seen Kendrick Green? Did you see what we saw? Do you know that there's a reason why we all questioned why once you benched Kenyon Green, you had to put him back in the game because he really can't play. And the question was, why was he on your roster? And how did you plan on backfilling that with somebody else, which you didn't do? That's crazy to me, but that's why I was chuckling.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that was a bunch of – you have to say that as a coach. You can't throw your guys under the bus. The moment that you do that, you're going to be out of the job. Like, that's the way professional sports work. So you can't throw your guys, especially as the offensive line coach. Alex says he'll be out of job after the season, if not sooner. That's what's weird, though, is that he was solid last year. Like, this patchwork offensive line a year ago was way better than this offensive line that has way more talent. So, like, it's hard for me to say that Chris Strausser's a bad coach. I think he might have to have the right pieces, maybe the type of players that he needs to be successful with his scheme. But I think that the worst I could say about Strausser as a coach is maybe he's the type of guy who's not very good at adjusting to the personnel he has.
Well, let me say this and let's see what you think about this. But the fact is, and you and I have been around teams and sports for a long time now, you're only as good a coach as your players are willing to accept your coaching. So at a certain point, maybe last year when you had a couple of journeymen, when you had a couple of guys that knew that this was an important point in their career and they were performing because there was a lot more sense of urgency on a personal front as well as from a team perspective, that they were stepping up, they were dialed in, he was teaching them well, he was coaching them up, and everything was going well. When you get the guys that have been taken care of and they have the money and they're set and they've been extended and everything feels good for them, maybe there's not as much urgency. Maybe there's not attention to detail from their part of going, yeah, you know what? I'm good. I know I'm good enough. I'm getting paid. I'm set. I'm all right. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but everybody knows I'm good enough. I can figure this out. It just seems like maybe the difference between last year and this year is you got guys that aren't as dialed in or as open to the coaching that he did a year ago.
Yeah, that would be problematic because now you're talking about like unprofessionalism, which is terrifying. But I would say that the issues with this offensive line, in my opinion, aren't the bookends. Like I think that you can get by with what you've had at tackle. In fact, I think the tackle play's been good. I think Laramie's been good. I think Titus has actually been good. It's the guys in the middle, and those guys are young. Like Kenyon Green has a lot to prove. Juice has a lot to prove. Shaq Mason does not. He's an older veteran, but. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely plausible. Like, I wouldn't rule that out.
I think a lot of times, too, the veterans are the guys that set the standard in the room. And I think that you're right. Yeah. Shaq has not been good. But if they're looking around the room and the three guys that are the most decorated and the most respected in the room are the guys just kind of going through the motions, then it's like, well, at a certain point, why do I have to do more or be different than what they're doing? Yeah, I'm younger, but in the case of Juice, I was a high enough draft pick. But overall, Shaq has been less than. I think Howard's been okay. I think Tunsil obviously got over all the penalty issues. He's supposed to be one of the top 5 tackles in this league. I don't think he's played like that, regardless of him playing decent. So I think that maybe as a group, it's just, again, at a certain point, even if you're a good coach, maybe it starts falling on deaf ears, or you need a different voice in the room because the delivery needs to change and maybe some of the coaching and teaching needs to change. I don't know specifically, but it does feel like there's a disconnect.
That's why, like, you can't say that's exactly what's going on because we don't know what's going on in that room. But like, would I rule it out? No, I can't rule it out. Texture saying Laramie Tunsil's a bad captain. The body language on the field ain't great. 9271, and I'm a body language expert. 9271, they were better last year with Fant and Green and Howard were out. They were a better offensive line last year with lesser talent. Eat says fire him now. See, I don't think that's the answer. I don't think that you can fire him now. I don't that to me is not a positive move. I don't think that you can gain anything by that. Here's another one from Strausser. This is where I'm going with Strausser. Like, he might be a good offensive line coach, but might not have the personnel needed for like his specific style, his specific philosophy, because there's a lot of coaches that they don't budge with their style, even if they have players that aren't great in their style. Here was Strausser talking about that.
The scheme it's I believe, a proven scheme. It's been used in this system for a lot of years, and so to me it always goes back to, like, I always come to work in the morning and know that whatever shows up on tape goes back to me. And so that's my starting point, is how do I do it better and how do I get this unit to play better and all those things.
Okay, the last part of that was just word salad. But the beginning, like, this is a scheme, this is a proven scheme. That, to me, sounds like a guy who's not really willing to budge. Because, like, he does some complicated stuff with this scheme. Like, the West Coast offense has some pretty complicated stuff with the offensive line. Like, adjusting with what you want to do on stunts can be complicated at times. I think you can dumb it down. I think you can make it easier for offensive linemen. But hearing that from Strausser, it makes me believe that he's not willing to do that.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think the other thing, to your point about maybe, it's just not the right – he doesn't have the right kind of personnel to do things, or he wants a different kind of personnel to do what he wants to do. You got to believe that there needs to be communication, whether it's he and Bobby Slowick, because he's not going to have the one-on-one with a Nick or D'Amico, but talking about, like, who do we need to have to be able to execute what we're trying to do, better. And I think that when you look at the Kendrick Green situation, or you look at the, bringing in Zach Thomas and saying these are guys that we're going to put on our roster for a reason, yet we don't know if they can play. In the case of Thomas, they just picked him up. In the case of Kendrick Green, we found out pretty quickly he wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. As an offensive line coach, it's my ass on the line. He just said that. If I'm worried, if I know my job is, in jeopardy or is going to be scrutinized because of something like this, I damn well better be having the confidence to be and be comfortable enough to say, hey, look, I think personnel-wise we might need to do this, or I think that schematically maybe because of the guys we have, we do this instead of that. But I would hope that there's that communication.
I prefer the schematic side of that. Like, to me, get your best five and then figure out how they can be their best five. Like, I rather have a coach who can adjust with the personnel that he has. But if you're not capable of doing that, then you need to have courage and the bravado to do the personnel side of things. So yeah, both are on the table. I prefer the scheme adjustment before I prefer the personnel adjustment, but they're both on the table if the other one's not working. Last one from Strausser. He was asked if there's any chance of moving Titus Howard to left guard.
We're always talking personnel, or really every week, good or bad. We've had, as we know, some good weeks, and we're still talking personnel because, we're always trying to figure out what the best five is, what the best mix is. Not try and move guys too much because it's a challenge at this point in the season in week to have to move guys from one spot to other. So, but, really everybody that's on our roster is in play.
I don't know what he said there. It sounded like, hey, we don't want to do that, but we're willing to do that. Like, okay.
Yeah, I think that was more like a cover your ass from the standpoint of, hey, look, we're not going to rule anything out, even though we all know that Titus Howard doesn't want to play left guard, and the fact is that you don't have a whole lot of viable options to play left guard. So at the same time, they want to make sure that everybody knows, hey, nothing's off limits. We're going to consider everything. They just seem to be the kind of coaching staff that doesn't want to ruffle anybody's feathers like a Titus Howard when everything should be on the table at this point.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe it is that. Or it could also be the gamesmanship. Maybe they're planning on doing this Sunday, and they don't want it out there. I think both of those things are on the table. Speaking of linemen, the Detroit Lions starting left tackle is out for Sunday night's game. So a little tit for tat on the injuries, I guess. Starting left tackle out for Detroit. The AFC Defensive Player of the Month, Will Anderson, out for the Houston Texans.